Before we get started, I really wanted to say thank you to the Hill Country Youth Orchestra, Ingram, Woodwind band. It's so nice. These kids are out of school and they came over here, and there's 35 of them. We have our Tybee Junior ROTC, Comfort Junior ROTC, Civil Air Patrol. It really means a lot to us, so thank you so much for taking the time out to do this and helping us set up and everything. We're going to get started. Please ensure to put your electronic devices on silence or turn them off during today's events. Welcome to today's ceremony, and thank you for attending. My name is Jennifer Sanchez. Chase Alsop and I are the Kerr County Veteran Service Officers. We're here today to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. I'm honored to introduce our MC for today's ceremony, City Councilman Place 2 and Mayor Pro Tem, and a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, Mr. Jeff Harris.
Good morning, and thank you for being here for our Memorial Day program. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to everybody in attendance today, including our elected officials, our veterans, our family members, our friends, and all who support our veterans. But most importantly, we have a personal hero here today. Mr. Colonel Allie Burton is with us today. Colonel Burton was a flight instructor. He was in World War II. He was in Korea, and he was a prisoner of war in the Korean War. Mr. Burton, Colonel, thank you so much for being here. For countless families across the nation, Memorial Day is often a painful reminder of those that never were afforded the opportunity to be honored as veterans. For their service to our country, their sacrifice is a true expression of selfless sacrifice, one that no one would pick for themselves. Poppies are flowers used as symbols around the world to remember those who've died in military service, which is why most everybody here, except for me today, is wearing one. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Comfort High School Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program. And if you are able, please stand and welcome the Comfort High ROTC. Ladies and gentlemen, we remind you to remain standing during the national anthem and as the Hill Country Youth Orchestra, Woodwind and Brass Unit, followed by retiring of the colors in our invocation. At this time, it is my honor to introduce County Commissioner Precinct 1, also your County Judge-elect, Tom Jones, who's going to lead us in our invocation.
It is an honor to be here today. If y'all would, please remove your caps and hats and join me in the word of prayer. Heavenly Father, today we've gathered with grateful hearts to honor the brave men and women who gave their lives in service to our nation. We remember their sacrifice, their courage, and their unwavering commitment to the freedoms we enjoy today. Grant us the wisdom to never take those freedoms for granted and the strength to live in a way that honors their memory. Be especially near to the families of the fallen, offering comfort, peace, and hope. As we come together in remembrance and unity, guide our hearts towards gratitude, humility, and service to one another. Bless this gathering, our community, and the United States of America. Amen.
At this time, please be seated. It is my honor to introduce Colonel Jeff Holt, United States Marine Corps retired Colonel, one of my brothers, as well as our Precinct 3 County Commissioner, who is now going to offer his opening remarks. Colonel Holt.
On behalf of Kerr County, it is my honor to welcome you to our annual Memorial Day observance as we gather in remembrance, gratitude, and reverence for the brave men and women of our armed forces who gave their lives in service to our great nation. Today is more than a date on the calendar or a ceremonial tradition. It is a solemn moment for the community to pause and reflect on the true costs of freedom we are privileged to enjoy today. We gather here as neighbors, families, veterans, and citizens, united in a shared promise that those who made the ultimate sacrifice will never be forgotten. Their courage was not distant or abstract, it was personal. It was carried out through sacrifice, selfless service, and unwavering love of country. And as we reflect upon their legacy, we are reminded of the timeless words of Lieutenant Colonel McCrae, "In Flanders Fields." In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing, fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw, the torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. These words do remind us that even in the midst of war and loss, memory endures. The poppies continue to bloom just as our legacy of our fallen heroes continues to live on in our hearts, in our communities, and in the freedoms that we carry forward. And in today, I remember my two, as you probably remember yours as well. Mine happened to be Sergeant Joe Reitzman and Lieutenant Scott Fleming. As we begin today's program, may we do so with humility, gratitude, and a renewed commitment to honor their sacrifice, not only through ceremony, but through the way we live, serve, and care for one another each day. Thank you for being here today. May God bless our fallen heroes, their families, our veterans, and our United States of America. And now I am pleased to introduce our guest speaker for today's and this year's Memorial Day's remembrance, Gary Noller, U.S. Army veteran. Gary Lee Noller was born in Dodge City, Kansas, where he learned the value of hard work at an early age while helping to operate his family's neighborhood grocery store alongside his 5 siblings. And I'm reading what says Jeff in the script, and I just recall there are 2 Jeffs here. So Jeff Harris, I'm reading your portion, and I'm going to keep going. Thank you. After graduating from college in May 1969, Gary entered the United States Army in September of that same year. He served 19 months on active duty, including 11 months in Vietnam as an infantryman. Think about that. During the Vietnam War. In recognition of his service in active ground combat, he was awarded our Combat Infantryman's Badge. Following his military service, Gary built a distinguished and diverse professional career spanning several industries. His experience includes 4 years as a high school math and science teacher. Oh, bless your heart, I'm going to say that. I'm adding that to script. 25 years as an operations manager in petroleum manufacturing, 6 years in industrial construction management, and 5 years as an employment counselor with our Texas Veterans Commission. Gary has remained deeply committed to serving the veteran community since becoming involved with our veterans organizations in 1987. He has dedicated countless hours to advocacy and outreach efforts. He's an active member of the Hill Country Veterans Council, currently serves as president of the Kerr County Veteran Services Advisory Committee. He also regularly contributes newspaper and very good magazine articles focused on veterans issues, including a monthly veterans column for the Kerrville Daily Times. And thank you all for running his stuff. In addition, Gary worked alongside Kerrville veterans Vicky Marsh, I haven't seen Vicky yet, and Bill Cantrell, thanks Vicky for being here, to do the successful establishment of the Freedom's Pass apartments right up the road at the Kerrville VA campus, providing much needed housing support for our veterans. Gary's dedication to public service extends to his family as well. His daughter Amy serves as a Foreign Service officer with the United States government. In 2002, we were lucky to have Gary relocate to Kerr County, Texas, where he enjoys caring for his 12 acres in the Texas Hill Country. Our keynote speaker, Jeff Noller. Gary.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Jeff. I'm happy to be here today. This is Memorial Day. This is a day dedicated to honor those that have fallen while wearing the military uniform of the United States. To me, it's not a choice. To me, it's an obligation, it's a duty, it's a requirement. We must never forget those. And today I hope to inform you a little bit about one of the many that I remember every Memorial Day. And as I look out here over the crowd today, I see that I have something in common with a few more of you, and that we're what I call the early baby boomers. I was going to say old baby boomers, but that doesn't quite sound the way we ought to get it. So the early baby boomers, and the baby boom started in 1946 at the completion of the World War II and extended for a period of 18 years up until 1964. And don't ask me what the next generation's called, I don't know. So anyway, the important thing about the early baby boom generation, when you were born in 1946 and about the next 5 or 6 years, you got to be 18 years old in 1964. And in 1964 is when the United States started a huge buildup of ground forces in Vietnam. And over the period of the next several years, more than about 9 million Americans served in military uniform, and somewhere around 2 million of them were either in the country of Vietnam or somewhere very close to the country of Vietnam. I was born on October 13th, 1947 at St. Anthony Hospital in Dodge City, Kansas, but I wasn't alone because I had a twin brother. Larry, because Mom had to have Gary and Larry. And we were 6 weeks premature and only weighed a little over 4 pounds apiece, and I was doing pretty good. I was born first. but my brother was struggling, and so the decision was made that we needed to stay in the hospital. I think even he was in an incubator for a period of time. So on November 6th, 1947, another baby was born in St. Anthony Hospital. His name was Jim Newfer. His parents were Leo and Regina Newfer. So we were there for a while. I don't know exactly how long. The three of us were all lined up there at the hospital. But we didn't see each other again until we went to first grade. We went to first grade. We actually went all the way through the first year of college together. And back in those days, the teachers were very regimented. And so they lined the girls up on one side and the boys up on the other side, and you were in alphabetical order, and you always had to sit in the same seat every day. So we had Gary Noller, Larry Noller, Jim Newfer. So we filled out the N rows, the N names there in the classroom. So we got to see each other every day. Going on to high school, and what I remember most, I had lab with Jim Newfer. They paired us off in a biology class, and one of the chores that we got to do was dissect a frog. So we sat there for whatever it was, a few class sessions, and cut open a frog to see what all goes inside a frog. Later on, when we were juniors in high school, Jim got a car, and that was a big deal to get a car, because that meant you didn't have to stay home. And you didn't have to ask your parents for a car. My brother and I didn't get a car till we was out of high school, but Jim had a car, so he became our ride to go do all this kind of stuff that we wanted to do. And one of the favorite things that we liked to do back then was go to the drive-in. And it was Dodge City. You had two drive-ins. One of them was Dodge City Drive-In, and the other one was called the Boot Hill Drive-In. And so we would go out and spend our time there. And in the summertime, it doesn't get dark in Dodge City till like 9 o'clock at night. So by the time you went out to the drive-in, it had a double feature. It had cartoons, it had previews of coming attractions, and some newsreels. We wasn't getting home till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But we never got into trouble. Thank God, we never got into trouble. But some of those times, we did consume rather large quantities of Rocky Mountain spring water, if you know what Rocky Mountain spring water is. We went to first year of college together, but Jim wasn't really into school that much by then. His ambition in life was he wanted to be a race car driver, and particularly a stock car drag racer. So he got an old car at that time, a 1957 Ford. This was 1967. 10-year-old car. It was a rust bucket, but it had a big engine in it. I think it was a two-door sedan at that. And so he was going to soup it up and modify it and turn it into a dragster that we could take to the drag strips on the weekends. And he needed some help. My brother wasn't interested in doing that kind of stuff, but I helped Jim. And so for several weeks we went down to his father's shop after it closed at night, and 7 o'clock or so, and we'd stay till midnight, 1 o'clock or so, working on that car. And we finally got it to where it was up and running, and Jim couldn't wait. He said, "Oh, we got to take this out. We got to see how it does." And in Dodge City, if you wanted to go show off your cars, you went out on Wyatt Boulevard. And it's sort of like if you went out on Junction Highway here towards Ingram, and you drove up and down and made a lot of noise and stuff. So we left the shop, and we only made it about 3 or 4 blocks, and all of a sudden there was this big loud boom coming out of the engine, and the car started vibrating real bad. And I looked back behind, and there was this big whitish blue smoke coming out. Looked like we was spraying for mosquitoes or something. And I told Jim, "Oh man, we got a problem. Something just blew in the engine." So he wheeled around, did a U-turn. We raced back to his father's shop. I pulled it in, pulled the heads off, and we immediately found what the problem was. This is what we found. This is a piston, and if you can see, it's got a hole in the top of it. It's about the size of a quarter. And if you have an 8-cylinder engine with the piston that's got a hole about the size of a quarter, it ain't gonna run very well. So we took it out, and as we left that night, Jim took that piston, and there was a junk pile out behind the back door, and he just threw that piston in a junk pile. And I said, hey, Jim, says, do you mind if I take that piston? He said, well, why do you want that piston for? It's just a piece of junk. And I said, oh, I think it would make a nice souvenir someday of what we done together working on this car. So I took that piston 59 years ago. Later that year, in the fall of 1967, Jim was drafted in the United States Army, went to Fort Polk, Louisiana, was trained as an infantryman, basic combat training and advanced training. Came home for Christmas 1967, and we had a great time. We went all over the place. I don't remember too much of what we did. That's going to say we probably went coyote hunting, rabbit hunting, drank beer and ate pizza, and ran around town. He went to Vietnam in January 1968, and you know the history of Vietnam. 68 was the worst year. And end of January 1968 was what they call the Tet Offensive. Tet is what the Asians call their New Year, the Lunar New Year is Tet. That usually starts later in January, and I think in 68 it started the 30th or 31st. And so the North Vietnamese started attacks all over the country. Probably the worst 3 or 4 months in the Vietnam War. And Jim was there, and we got a letter from him, and I sent him a letter back, and he sent another letter back, and he was describing things that they were doing. He said that they would go out on ambush and do a lot of patrolling. But we got the sad news in the second week of March. I was with another friend. We were at the college at the activity center. We was getting ready to go to have lunch, and the dean of students walks in. He comes right up to us, and he's got this sullen face. He said, I got some bad news for you guys. He says, we just got the news that your buddy Jim was killed in Vietnam. A few days later, Jim's casket comes in on the Santa Fe train to the Dodge City Depot, and we go down on it after dark and load him onto a hearse. And then another few days later, we had his funeral in the church that we all attended when we were kids. My brother and I and 4 other classmates carried him to his grave. Today he's buried in the Maple Grove Cemetery in Dodge City, Kansas. Later that summer, the United States Army sent a representative to Dodge City with medals. Jim's parents were there, and his brothers and sisters. He was one of 6 kids. Medals that Jim received was a Bronze Star Medal for Valor, a Purple Heart Medal, a Combat Infantryman Badge. I graduated college in 1969, and unlike my brother who joined the Air Force, I got drafted. I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then Fort Knox, Kentucky, received training as an armor crewman, and I went to Vietnam, but there were not a lot of tanks in Vietnam, so they said, well, we don't need you in tanks, but we need you in infantry. And when they tell you what to do, you just do what they tell you to do. So I served almost 11 months, came home. I left Vietnam on April 30th, 1971, and got out of the Army on May 1st, 1971. So you figure out that transition. The only thing you got to figure in, you go across the date line, so it's not as quick as it might sound. Went back home. Mom said, you can have your bedroom, and I was happy with that. First morning after I got home, she asked me, she said, what's going on? Says, I looked in on you last night and you're sleeping on the floor. And I said, Mom, I haven't slept in a bed for 11 months. It doesn't feel right. A few days later, I had a visitor come by. It was Steve Newfers. Steve Newfers, Jim Newfers' younger brother. And he had heard I was back in town. And he said, have you been out to see Mom and Dad yet? And I said, no, I haven't been out to see your parents. And in reality, I didn't want to. I was wound up. I wasn't ready for anything like that. But I didn't want to turn him down, so I said, okay, fine. So we went out to his folks' house, and he went in, kind of opened the door and stood in the doorway, and he said, hey, Mom, Dad, somebody here wants to see you. And he stepped aside, and I stepped in. Immediately, his mother jumped up off the couch, and she ran over to me, and she gave me the biggest hug in the world. And she said, my God, it's good to see you. I'm so glad you made it home. And I've often thought of it, how much she wished she could have said that to her son instead of her son's friend. but she never got to greet her son. All my mom said to me when she saw me was, "What did they do to my boy?" Jim's parents wanted to know if there were any more details about Jim's dying. This is kind of curious. They had some information on the Bronze Star Medal citation that said Jim was a member of a machine gun squad, which is usually 3 people, the gunner, the assistant gunner, the ammo bearer. He was the ammo bearer. They got in contact early in the day, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they were running low on ammunition, so it was his duty to go get some more from whoever had it. So he left the position that they were in, and on the way back, he was shot and killed. So in those type of situations, you don't say, "No, I'm not going to go get machine gun ammo." If they say, "We need to get machine gun ammo," you go get it. But in 1988, I was able to attend a veterans reunion in St. Louis, Missouri. It was the 196th Light Infantry Brigade, which is the brigade that I was in. Jim and I were in the same brigade in the same division, but just different battalions. And I happened to meet 2 people there that were in the unit that Jim was in when he was dead. And they told me about the battle that they were in, and it was a terrific battle. It would start at 9 o'clock in the morning, didn't last until dark. They were in contact with an NVA infantry unit that had been participating in the battles around the coast, south of Da Nang. And they were probably needing to replenish themselves, so they were moving from the coast to go back out to their base camps closer to the Laotian border, and then they run into these Americans, and so they chose to fight all day long. I talked to a man who was a lieutenant, and he got shot early in the morning. He was sitting up next to a tree, and the medic came over to give him aid, and the medic was shot dead and landed in the lieutenant's lap. And another one was telling me about that how they fought all day long, and it finally didn't stop until it got dark. And when it got dark, they couldn't see the enemy anymore, and the enemy couldn't see them anymore, and the enemy just was able to drift and get away. And that day, there were 2 Americans killed, the medic that was treating the lieutenant, and my friend Jim Lufer. There were 29 Americans wounded. And surprisingly, for ground infantry, there were 6 prisoners taken. And you get taken prisoner in the Vietnam War, there's 2 ways out of that. You die in prison, or you wait till 1973 to come home. I also got in contact a short time later with a man named Sergeant Fritz, lived in St. Joseph, Missouri, and he was a platoon leader for Jim's unit. And he knew I was going to call him. There was a mutual friend got us in contact. And so I called him one night, and he told me, he said, "I know you know who you're talking about. I know what happened, but I said, I can't talk about it right now." I said, "Call me back in a couple of days." So I waited a couple of days, and I called him back, and I could tell he was still very reluctant to talk about it. And so I didn't press him about it. I know how hard it was, the guilt that he probably felt. It's one thing about the leadership. If you're a leader and you lose people, you have a special kind of guilt because of that. But he did tell me one thing that I found quite interesting. He said that he lost 6 people in Vietnam, and that after he got back home, he went to the burial place of all 6 of those people to see where they were buried and to give him the final respects that they deserved. He said, "I just wanted to make sure that somebody came back and visited them and cared for them." Last year I went back to Dodge City for the 60th anniversary of the graduation of the class of 1965. There was about 15 of us in attendance. And 5 or 6 years ago, we had a granite monument erected on the former school grounds. And so we went out there, and I said a few words and answered a few questions. There were 3 of them at my school that died in Vietnam. In addition to James, is Greg Steimel and Richard Conrady. Both of those were younger than me. Richard served with the 101st Airborne Division, was a combat medic, died giving aid to his buddies during an attack, received the Silver Star. Greg Steimel served with 25th Infantry Division, was a machine gunner laying down, covering fire while his unit was trying to withdraw themselves from a deadly ambush site. Greg received the Distinguished Service Cross. And about 58,000 Americans were killed in Vietnam. 14,000 were age 20. That is the most of any one age group. And Jim was 20 years old when he died. 16,000 died in 1968. Jim died in 1968. Average age of death in Vietnam, 23 years old. I turned 23 in Vietnam, but I did not die. It was estimated that 35,000 of the 58,000 that died were under the age, equal to or under the age of 21. And these are baby boomers, okay? Baby boomers. That's 61%, 61% baby boomers. So that when I say it was a baby boomers war, if you say it wasn't, well then you have to tell me whose it was. So again, I want to thank you for coming today and sharing this day. I'll always remember, and I hope you always remember. And I have this. This came out of a junk pile 59 years ago, and it's my memento, again, of the good times I had with my good friend Jim Hoover. And someday this will probably find its way back into a junk pile, but not today. Thank you very much for coming.
Well, Jeff, thank you for introducing Gary. But we forgot one thing, because Gary told me, I said, how do you really want me to introduce you before we start? He goes, just say I'm the guy that keeps getting better looking with age. So, I'm honored to serve on the Veteran Service Advisory Committee with Gary as well. So I'm going to introduce our next gentleman to come up, Mr. Ryan Halley. Ryan has relieved me of probably the hardest function of this Memorial Day program, and that's reading our names of our Kerr County heroes that paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. While Amazing Grace is going to be played, if you're here with an organization that has a wreath to present, please go stand by your wreath and prepare to be called after Amazing Grace is finished. At this time, Sergeant Eric Morgan with the Texas Highway Patrol is going to lead us with Amazing Grace on the pipes. Thank you, Sergeant Morgan. At this time, Kerr County would love to honor our fallen heroes with wreath laying ceremony. When I call your organization's name, please come up to the memorial and place your wreath. Kerr County. Kerr County Veterans Service Office. Our Kerr County Sheriff's Office. Our Kerrville Fire Department. Kerrville Police Department. Texas Veterans Commission. Gunny's Warriors. Together with Hill Country Veterans. Kerr County Historical Commission. Corporal Jacob C. Light Memorial and Vets Post 1000. Elks Lodge number 2081. The Kerr County Democratic Party. The Kerr County Republican Party. Salvation Army of Kerr County. Kerr County Chamber of Commerce. Sons of the Republic of Texas. American Legion Riders Post 208. The Republican Women of Kerr County. Sons of the American Revolution. Our VFW Post 1480. VFW Post 1480 Auxiliary, as well as District 13 VFW Auxiliary. '40 and 8 Locale 1055. Of Hymns Locale 1055. The Rotary Club of Kerrville. Major James Kerr, DAR. Hill Country Retired School Teacher Employees. the Hill Country chapter of the Military Order of the World Wars. Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association. Sons of the Confederate Veterans Camp 1938. Sons of the American Legion Post 208. Knights of Columbus Council 6409. The Kerrville Memorial American Legion Post 208. Kerrville Memorial American Legion Auxiliary Unit number 208. Our Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 863. Our Hill Country Veterans Center. And the Kerr County Patriots Club. If you're able, please stand as the Hill Country Honor Guard, led by Commander Arnold Rathke, United States Navy veteran, will provide us with the volleys. At military funerals, there are 3 bullets fired, and the 3 volleys represent the words duty, honor, and country. TAPS only has 24 notes. Those are clear, sad, and they conjure memories of loved ones lost. They instill hope and bring comfort and peace to the families and communities of those who have served with honor. Day is done, gone the sun, from the lake, from the hill, from the sky, all is well. Safely rest. God is nigh. Dueling taps today was presented by Lieutenant Colonel George Eychner and Petty Officer First Class Brian Ward. Thank you, gentlemen. Before our benediction, I would just like to ask for a moment of silence and reflection for our Kerr County heroes and for today, for the nation that mourns the loss of our American heroes. Thank you. County Judge-elect Jones will lead us in our benediction.
Let us pray. May we carry with us the memory of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. May their courage inspire us, their service humble us, and their legacy remind us of the true cost of freedom. May God bless the families who continue to bear the weight of loss, bless our veterans and our active duty service members, and bless this nation with peace, unity, and understanding. Let us appreciate this day with grateful hearts, committed to honoring the fallen, not only with words, but through lives of compassion, integrity, and service. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, everybody that participated in today's event. There's nothing more noble than risking your life for our country. Let us honor the memory of the heroes who are no longer here with us, and let us strive to live to the example set by each selfless act of patriotism. I'd like to end today's event with the four-toast salute. The four-toast salute is a tradition between veterans. We raise a glass to four groups. We raise a glass to those who served. We raise a glass to those who support those who served. We raise a glass to those who continue to carry the torch of freedom, and to those who made the ultimate sacrifice. This is our way to honor service and to remembering fallen comrades. Again, thank you all for being here today. God bless our first responders. God bless our troops, our leaders, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.